All right. Diving into the world of English.
Yeah.
Want to start having basic conversations.
Yeah, it's incredible how powerful those simple phrases can be, right? Like a secret handshake to a whole new culture.
We've got you covered. We looked at this video guide for beginners.
Yeah, great place to start.
It's all about, greetings and introductions.
Building blocks.
The building blocks, exactly. And one of the first things it points out, there are formal and informal greetings.
All right.
Which I know can sound a bit intimidating. But it's really important to understand the difference.
Oh, for sure. Imagine accidentally using slang with your boss or a new teacher. It's all about context, right?
Right. You wouldn't greet your grandma the same way you'd greet your best friend.
Yeah.
And this guide does a great job. It gives clear examples.
Yeah.
So for formal greetings, they suggest things like good morning, good evening.
Very important.
It even points out that these are time specific, which I never really thought about before.
Huh, yeah. It's those little details that can really make a difference.
For sure. And on the flip side, for informal greetings, there's the classic hi.
Yeah.
Or a more casual, hey, what's up?
I can see you practicing that in the mirror.
I was practicing those out loud while reading.
It's the way to do it, experimenting.
That's the way to learn. Yeah, for sure. But the guide doesn't stop there. It also gives examples of how to respond to these greetings.
Right.
Like formally and informally. So, for instance, if someone says good morning to you, a formal response would be like, good morning. How are you today?
And informally.
You formally. Maybe just, hey, what's up?
Not much you.
Not much you.
Yeah.
Right. Like a little dance, mirroring each other's level of formality.
Yeah. Smooth interaction.
I love how the guide gives you these little conversation snippets to practice with.
Yeah. It's not just the words, right? It's those unspoken rules. That's where the real learning happens.
Okay, so let's say you've mastered saying hello. Time to move on to introductions.
Introductions.
And guess what?
I bet the guide's got us covered.
The guide has got us covered.
Building those conversational blocks one step at a time.
Exactly, yeah. The guide breaks down introductions into these simple steps. Saying your name, asking for the other person's name, and maybe even adding where you're from.
Formula that works across cultures, right?
Yeah.
Universal language of connection.
I love that. Formally, you might say, hello, my name is your name. What is your name?
Mm-hmm.
But informally, you could just say, hi, I'm your name. What's your name?
It shows you how those phrases fit into a real conversation.
Yeah, to give that example of meeting someone at a party.
Right.
You can use these basic phrases to just start a casual chat.
Exactly. Because the goal isn't just to memorize phrases, it's to use them confidently in real life situations.
Right. And the guide even points out this little detail. I think it's so important.
Oh.
The phrase, nice to meet you. It's a small thing, but it adds that extra touch of politeness.
In some cultures, they might express it differently, but it's universal. Acknowledging the other person, expressing that willingness to connect.
I love that. And the guide even gives you different ways to say it, depending on whether you're in a formal or an informal setting.
Yeah.
In a more casual conversation, you might say, nice to meet you.
Sure.
But in a more formal situation, you could say, it's a pleasure to meet you. I've definitely heard both. But I never really thought about the difference.
It's like learning that secret code of social etiquette.
Yeah.
Once you understand those nuances, you can navigate different situations with more confidence.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've covered the basics of greetings and introductions. But what I find really cool about this guide is it goes beyond listing phrases.
Gives you practical tips.
Practical tips, exactly. It suggests practicing these phrases out loud.
Yeah.
Maybe even recording yourself to hear how you sound.
Yeah.
And it encourages you to find a language partner.
Yes. Language partner.
To practice with.
So important.
Which is such a good idea.
Because ultimately, language learning is about connecting with others, right? Sharing ideas, experiences.
It really emphasizes that from the beginning. Starting with these basic building blocks of greetings and introductions.
Yeah.
And, it's empowering to know that even with a few simple phrases, you can start having, real conversations.
It opens up possibilities.
Speaking of possibilities, I'm curious to know, what kind of conversations would you like to be able to have in English?
Oh, what a great question to think about.
What topics excite you?
Yeah. What would make you feel truly confident in your communication skills?
We'll dive into that in just a bit, but first, let's take a closer look at some specific conversation examples from the guide.
Yeah, I love how they give those specific scenarios almost like a little script to practice with.
Almost like a cheat sheet.
Bringing those phrases to life. Yeah, they walk you through it.
Like, remember that example? Meeting a neighbor.
Uh-huh.
The guide walks you through exactly what you might say, like both formally and informally.
So formally, what could you say?
So in a formal setting, you could say something like, "Good morning. I'm your new neighbor. Your name. It's a pleasure to meet you."
Yeah, and what could the neighbor say back?
And the neighbor could say, "Good morning. Your name.
Okay.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
Nice.
Nice to meet you too." See? Feels a bit more polished.
A little bit more polished, yeah. What about informally?
Then they show you, like, the casual. You could just say, "Hey, I'm your name, your new neighbor. Nice to meet you."
The neighbor
I might just say, "Hey, your name. Welcome.
Yeah.
I'm neighbor's name. Nice to meet you too."
So much more relaxed.
It's so much more relaxed. It's all about reading the situation,
Exactly.
adjusting your language.
And that takes practice, which is what this guide is all about.
I'm curious, though, about that "nice to meet you" phrase. The guide mentions it a few times, but it doesn't really go into, like, why it's so important.
Good point. That little phrase is more than just, like, polite words. It's a signal. You're open to connecting.
Oh, okay.
It's like you're saying, hey, I'm happy to be talking to you.
Right. So it's like an unspoken agreement to be, like, friendly and respectful.
Exactly. And even though it's simple, it can be expressed in different ways.
Oh, how so?
Like formally, "It's a pleasure to meet you." Casually, "Nice to meet you."
Right.
It works perfectly.
The secret handshake to good manners in English.
Exactly. These small details can make such a difference in how you come across.
So we've talked about greetings and introductions in these neighborly scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
But the guide also gives some great examples of, how to use these phrases in other situations.
Like what?
Like at a party, right?
At a party, imagine you see someone you want to chat with.
What do you say?
What do you say? The guide suggests, "Hi, I don't think we've met. I'm your name."
And then follow that up with, "What's your name?"
Yeah. Casual and friendly.
Perfect for a party.
And then, keeping the conversation going, ask some open-ended questions.
Oh, like what?
How do you know host's name? Or, what brings you to this party?
Great conversation starter.
Shows you're interested
Right.
in getting to know them. And then, as you get comfortable, share a bit about yourself. The guide even gives you the phrase, "I'm from your country city."
Right.
Adds a personal touch.
It's all about, like, finding that balance. Asking questions, sharing about yourself, like a little dance of, like, back and forth.
The more you practice that dance, the smoother those conversations become.
Now, I know this guide's for beginners. Are there any tips in there that even, like, someone who's been speaking English for a while might find helpful?
Great question. Even if you're fluent, brushing up on the basics is always good. Clear pronunciation, the right tone, even body language.
Body language. The guide doesn't really talk about that, does it?
Not in detail, but it kind of shows you that communication is more than words. It's how you carry yourself. Eye contact. Gestures.
Like unspoken cues that can, like, make or break a conversation.
Exactly. And those can vary from culture to culture.
That's true. When I first started learning English, I was so focused on the grammar, the vocabulary.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about body language.
It's a common oversight, yeah. But you can become more aware of it.
So it's not just what you say, it's how you say it.
For greetings and introductions, too. Those first few moments can set the tone.
It's making me think about all the different ways people greet each other around the world.
Oh, yeah?
Like, in some cultures you bow, in others you shake hands.
Simple acts, but reflect deep cultural values. And learning those customs can help you navigate those interactions more smoothly.
It's always felt intimidating to learn all those customs.
All those rules, yeah.
It feels like a lot to remember.
It can be overwhelming. Just approach it with curiosity and an open mind.
Okay.
You don't have to be an expert overnight.
Right.
Awareness of basic differences can make a huge difference.
So it's more about being respectful and adaptable than knowing every single rule.
Exactly. And the more you expose yourself to different cultures and languages, the more comfortable you'll become.
Makes sense. This reminds me of time I was traveling and I completely butchered a greeting in another language.
Yeah.
So embarrassing.
I'm sure we all have those stories. But those awkward moments are the best learning opportunities.
Yeah, that's true.
Teaches you humility. Making mistakes is part of the process.
So even though this guide focuses on English greetings and introductions, it's really touching on something much bigger.
What's that?
The importance of cultural awareness and sensitivity in communication.
Those basic phrases are just the starting point.
Yeah.
Then it's about expanding your understanding of how language and culture intersect.
Okay, so we've talked about greetings and introductions in different scenarios, from meeting neighbors to like striking up conversations at parties.
Mm-hmm.
And we've even touched on body language and cultural awareness.
Yeah, covered a lot of ground. But before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your thoughts on something.
Okay, hit me with it. I love a good thought-provoking question.
Imagine you could have any conversation in English with anyone in the world.
Okay.
Who would you talk to? What would you talk about? What dreams or goals would you share?
Wow, that's a powerful question to consider.
It is, yeah.
It makes you think, like, learning a language isn't just about the words. It's about connecting with people on a deeper level.
Giving yourself a voice in a whole new world.
Yeah. And this guide really lays the foundation for those conversations.
Even though it focuses on the basics.
It's true. And speaking of tools, the guide gives you tips on how to practice and, like, keep improving.
Oh, yeah. What are some of those tips?
Like repetition, listening to English podcasts, watching movies with subtitles.
Yeah.
It even suggests practicing those greetings and introductions in front of a mirror, which might feel a little silly,
It does.
but it could really help.
It could really help boost your confidence. It reminds me of that tip about finding a language partner
Oh, yeah, language partner.
to practice with. Have you ever tried that?
I haven't, have you?
I have. It's one of the most rewarding experiences.
Really?
Yeah. You not only get to practice your English, but you also get to learn about another person's culture and perspective. It's like a two-way street of learning and connection.
I've always wanted to try that, but I get a bit nervous making mistakes in front of someone.
I can understand that, but the guide emphasizes not being afraid to make mistakes. It actually encourages it to embrace those mistakes as opportunities to learn.
That's a good point, because it's easy to get caught up in trying to be perfect,
Right.
but the real goal is to communicate, even if it's not, like, grammatically perfect.
You know, most people are really understanding, especially when they see that you're learning a new language. They're happy to help.
That's good. So it's more about the effort
Yeah.
and willingness to learn.
And being perfect. The more you practice, the more confident you become. Like any skill.
It's like, what's that? Like riding a bike. You might fall a few times, but eventually it's like second nature. I love that analogy. And, be patient with yourself. Learning a language takes time.
It takes time, yeah. It's true. It's a journey.
Speaking of journeys, I'm curious. What's one thing you'd love to be able to do in English? Something you can't do yet?
Oh, let me see. I think for me it would be like to travel to an English-speaking country
Okay, yeah.
and have, deep, meaningful conversations with the people I meet. Not just like ordering food or asking directions, but really connecting. What about you?
Oh, wow. That's beautiful. For me, it would be to read classic English literature
Oh,
in its original language, to experience the nuances and the beauty without any translation.
yeah, that's great. It's like a whole new world of stories and ideas.
It really is. And you know what's inspiring?
Hmm?
It's never too late to start. No matter your age or background, you can always embark on this journey.
And this guide, even though it's for beginners, it kind of shows that every language learner started somewhere.
We all did.
We all had to learn those basic greetings, introductions, those building blocks. And once you have them, the possibilities are endless.
Exactly. So to everyone out there starting their English language journey, be patient. Embrace the mistakes. Celebrate every victory.
And maybe one day we'll be having those deep conversations with you in English.
That'd be great. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the world of greetings and introductions. We hope you found it helpful.
Every conversation starts with a simple hello, so get out there and start connecting.